When I look at my buying criteria, it often has to do with looking at sort of mom and pop owners. And this is that sounds like what you would normally hear from a mom and pop owner, right? Self-manage, bring the occupancy rate down, paying out of pocket every month. It's not normally.
Another piece of advice is if you don't think you can, you must. So
Hmm.
if you don't think you can do something, you must go try it, because that's what gets us out of our comfort zone and changes our own mindset. You were very clear on.
Welcome to the Healthy Investor Podcast with Bob Mastroianni, where you and I will learn from successful real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and other highly driven individuals about their journey and the healthy habits and routines that play an integral part of their growth. All right, welcome back to the Healthy Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Bob Mastroianni, and really excited today to have with me Michael Guthrie. Michael is the co-owner and VP of sales of a multi-million-dollar automated teller machine distributorship, Automated ATM Solutions, Inc. He's a capital raiser, multifamily investor, and syndicator at Pacific Capital LLC. He currently owns over 8,000 doors across multiple markets, providing a passive income. Michael, thanks so much for being here today. I would love to get into your story and just learn a little bit about what it is that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to sharing with your audience anything you want to talk about.
All right, great. So let's talk first before we get into, because I have some questions about the ATM business, the automated teller machine business, but let's get a little bit into your syndication model and your multifamily investing. How did you start out in that business, and what does that look like today?
I got started out as just as a limited partner, investing into other people's opportunities so I could actually learn the business from the inside out. And like my wife said before we started the ATM company, if you don't eat it, sleep it, breathe it, we're not going to do it. So I had to learn it from the inside so then we could actually trust where we're placing our hard-earned capital with other people to help grow it, that we're actually placing with people that actually know what they're doing, know what they're talking about. They've been doing it before. This isn't their first rodeo per se. So we're in a total of 29 different syndications, of which 12 of them were general partners on and helped raise capital on those 12.
That's awesome. I love hearing you say that, and it's sort of appropriately timed this conversation. So a little bit about my backstory. I've been in real estate for, I guess, better part of 15, 16 years, but on a smaller, single family, multifamily, 1 to 4 unit residential type thing. And I made a decision a little over a year ago, closer to 2 years now, that I was going to move into multifamily opportunities. And I'm right now, as we speak, I'm in the process. I've committed to 2 limited partnership positions on 2 different syndications. And it's exactly for the reasons that you said there. How do I learn from those who are doing well? It's a pretty big opportunity, right? So when you get into syndication models and larger opportunities like that, you can read all the books you want about how the team should operate, but really living and feeling and breathing it. And even just right now, neither of the opportunities have closed yet. They should both close before the end of the summer. Just seeing it's 2 different operators, right? So just seeing how paperwork is handled, it's a little bit different on both ends. Just the conversations about how investor touches are going to take place and all of that, right? So I guess that was, a lot of the education that you were able to receive. And it's nice that there's also, a financial reward involved in your gaining that education, right? I mean, you are part of the opportunity and you hope to make money on it too, right?
100%. And it's hard to get the general partners or the syndicators that are actually operating the deal to actually share their information if you're not actually putting capital into their opportunity. You put some money and you all of a sudden have their attention, because now you're an actual player in the game. You're just not over here popcorning questions from the cheap seats, if you will.
Yeah. So what year was that you started your first LP positions?
My first LP position started in December of 2020, and we've closed out on one of them. That one closed out in 16 months, where we a little over doubled our money. But since then, we've gotten into a number of more positions, and While most of them have done well, there's some that have pulled back the distributions, if you will. About they're only distributing across about 40% of those right now. And I think it's because of what's going on in the market with the interest rate hikes, increased labor, if you will, insurance, all those things that go into operating one of these big businesses, because that's what it ends up being. And just like you, I owned 7 single family homes, a couple of them were duplexes and whatnot along the way. And when I finally learned about this, I started liquidating all of that and putting it into multifamily. Because when one door would be empty, I wasn't getting my $3,500 a month in rent. It was like zero. And I
Yeah.
still had obligations to the mortgage, the lawn guy, and all these other things without any income. So I figured one door down, I'm out of business. So when that happened a few too many times and I had to support it, not that I couldn't, but I had to support it, it made me go, if I had a multitude of doors on one property, if one of them goes empty, maybe that's an opportunity to upgrade it and increase the rent without having to lose any true revenue from that opportunity.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting model, right? And you know, very similar similarities in the exact thing. You know, we have 5 properties right now, total of 10 units on our personal side, and those are the exact same conversations of, you know, one's 2 units, and when a unit's empty, you're now at 50%, right? Or you know, we have a property that's 3 units, a property that's 1 unit, and that economies of scale. You know, one vacancy on a 50 unit deal or a, you know, even larger deal, it really decreases the percentage of income loss for that month.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you were able to close out some syndications already in such a short time period. That's not normally the plan, right? Isn't the plan normally somewhere in the 5 to 7 year time frame with syndications?
Um, yes, definitely. Time horizon wise, 5 to 7 years. And literally, when we got into our first couple as general partners, the rents were going up so fast. We were already looking to sell at the end of year 1.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, these interest rate hikes just started spiking,
Yeah.
which drove the NOI wasn't keeping up.
Mhm.
So, if you will, so we couldn't sell it for as much as we wanted to. So we're sitting there, we're holding, and we have rate cap insurance on every single one of our properties that we are syndicators on, except for 4, because those 4 had fixed debt on them, so we didn't have to buy the rate caps. But most people are getting caught right now looking to buy a new rate cap because they did a 2-year cap as opposed to a 3, and it was only a little bit more to go to a 3. So on all of ours, I pushed our teams to go to 3, because I'm like, I'd rather have a little bit more insurance and pay just a little bit more today for
Yeah.
that insurance for our investors for tomorrow.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's an interesting conversation because, you know, I think what people who aren't necessarily in the larger multifamily opportunities don't realize, you know, when you look at some of the smaller opportunities, you know, if I bought a 2 to 4 unit property in 2020 or 2019 or, you know, 2010, really has no effect on me what the interest rate is today because I was locked into that interest rate for a 30-year loan, right? But when you start getting into these larger commercial opportunities, there are so many different varieties of debt options that you're picking between bridge debt or, you know, some escalated debt or you know, variable rate debt, right? And so we are hearing a little bit more about people that either need to pull back on distributions or maybe even need to sell, or it's a better opportunity to sell because the rate hikes are starting to affect how that property cash flows, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so did you have bridge debt on any of those properties? Were you looking at that?
Out of the 12 opportunities, I have bridge debt on 8 of them.
Okay. All right.
And our effective across all of our properties, our effective interest rates running right now around 5.5, based
Okay.
on the rate caps that we bought at the time. And when we were literally getting into these rate caps, were for on a $15 million loan, were $25,000-$30,000
Mm,
for 3 years.
yeah.
Today, that same cap's going to cost you about $900,000 for 3 years.
Wow.
That's because the way it's escalated. And the one thing I know about insurance companies, and that's what I watch in this business, and they all show rates coming back down over the next 12 to 18 months, insurance companies don't lose money. They may have missed out when the rates were, when we originally got into some of these properties at 3% and the rates started escalating, and we had the caps on there. They weren't selling them for so expensive, but as rates started to go up and they started having to pay out, the escalation on the cost of the rate cap, it has gone astronomical. And I'm chasing an opportunity right now, and our effective rate on that property is going to be 4.5%. The lender is buying our first year rate cap to get our rate to get it to 4.5%. And they're paying $2.3 million to buy that rate cap from the insurance company to make that additional payment for us for the first year.
Wow.
Because they know what's going to happen. The lenders are in a hard spot right now too, because they're wanting to get the rate here because that's what the Fed's doing. But they don't, when the rates are too high, nobody's borrowing money.
Nobody
So
buys
they're
them,
trying
right?
to they're trying to buy the rate down for you so that they can actually lend you the money and hope that you carry that debt for more than 5 years so they can make their money back.
Mm.
So it's interesting what's actually going, the shifts that are actually happening in the marketplace today to get people like you and me to syndicate a deal and borrow that 15, 20, $30 million to do a deal.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting. Both of the opportunities that I've committed to actually had some sort of seller financing attached to the units, and it's making things a little bit easier because I know that a lot of banks are actually loaning on 65% right now. So they're looking at like 35% down. So if you can get this seller to hold back a note for a portion of that, and even if it's just short term to try and get through some of these rate hikes. So
absolutely. And on the fixed debt side, if you go to fixed debt, it's a 65-35. You're raising 35% of that capital to get that deal done.
yeah. Crazy. So are you're looking for properties right now? Is there a certain area, certain criteria of what you're looking for?
We're chasing one right now in the southeast.
Okay.
I'm not going to say because somebody might hear this and want to chase after it. But the buyer bought this thing 2 years ago for $90 million, and we're buying it right now for 71.
Wow.
And what's funny is they offered it to us. We bid on it 90 days ago, and the lender came back and said, no, we want you to go with our buyer to the seller. And so they tried that, and literally last Friday we got a call from the lender saying our buyer's out. If you guys want it, 71 million, you can have it. And so right now we're underwriting it and getting the debt quotes on that right now today to see if it's an opportunity for us to have.
So as the current owner, I mean, they're just a bunch of zeros, right? Has the current owner done anything to improve the property? I mean, in 2 years to go out and effectively take a $19 million reduction on price, have they done anything to increase the value of the property, or what are you saying there?
They've done some amazing things. They've taken the occupancy down to 60%, and the syndicator that bought it is actually self-managing. So he's really done himself no favors over that time period. And so he's really, I don't know what the deal was. This guy's a multi-millionaire. So he's actually feeding the property $50,000-$60,000 a month to pay the note right now today. And so he bought it pretty much on his own. He's I want to say a .com millionaire, if you will, and has a lot of his own money, but he didn't have the sense to actually leave a property management company that knew what they were doing to continue to raise the property. So these are the kind of deals we're starting to see, where people have really they run into their debt got so high that they weren't collecting their rents, and then they go in and they self-manage, and the lenders are just trying to get the debt off of their books or get it onto a performing to where the debt's actually performing.
That's interesting because oftentimes, when I look at my buying criteria, it often has to do with looking at sort of mom and pop owners. And this is that sounds like what you would normally hear from a mom and pop owner, right? Self-manage, bring the occupancy rate down, paying out of pocket every month. It's not normally those aren't normally the signs that you hear from a large syndication, one that's only 2 years in. So it sounds like there's opportunity for someone to come in and really, really improve the value of this property, at least back to where it was 2 years ago.
Absolutely. And we're hopeful we're going to be the ones that have the opportunity to do that.
Well, best of luck to you. I'd love to hear more about it as you go down the line.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I want to jump into your automated teller machine distributorship, and if you could talk a little bit about that business and what do you do?
So we started, so ATMs became deregulated in April of 1996, which means you or I could actually go out and buy an ATM and operate it. They're considered a bank, so there's all sorts of due diligence. The sponsoring institutions, and when I say sponsoring institutions, that's the people that allow you to transact across the networks, i.e. Visa, MasterCard, Star, Mac is more of an East Coast network.
Mm-hmm.
So we got involved in the business August of 1996, bought our first ATM machine on my wife's credit card. She's the president of the company. I'm the sales guy. And we grew it from one ATM to a little over 8,000 ATMs over the last 27 years. And we basically get individuals that want to own and operate their own route, and they process their transactions with that. They can't get the buying power on their own because they don't have the volume that we have. So we try to offer them superior pricing on equipment and transaction processing, so that we can aggregate everybody together. And that's how we've grown that business. And for us, it's always take care of the client that swipes the card, make sure the machines are working, and take care of the client that owns the machine and processing through us, and that their money goes where it's supposed to go. And they win. If both of those people win, we win later. And that's the way that's worked out really well. And I moved that same philosophy into the multifamily. My first job is to take care of the tenant. My second job is to take care of my investor. And if I can take care of the tenant pay the rent, which takes care of the investor, and then we all win later.
So you mentioned deregulation, and I'm guessing that prior to 1996, when that deregulation happened, then were all ATM machines owned by banks, I would assume?
They were all owned by some sort of a financial institution. That is correct.
Okay. And so you have 8,000 of them. Is there a specific territory, or is this now nationwide?
We are nationwide. We probably have 300 to 400 in Philadelphia.
Okay, excellent.
And I've only been to Philly a couple times, so I know that's the general area of where you're at. So I thought I had to pull up a number earlier while we were discussing it to see what kind of volume we have in that area. But we're pretty good size in the New England area, California, Washington State, Oregon, but we're peppered all over the United States, Chicago, Texas, you name it. We have clients almost everywhere.
So I'm born and raised originally in Philly. I actually live in South Jersey, but I'm 15 minutes outside of Philly today. Funny little quip about Philadelphians, especially Philadelphians of a certain age. We still say tap Mac. So many Philadelphians, it's sort of a Philly joke that Philadelphians still refer to the ATM machine as going to Mac or tapping Mac.
Yep. You have one of those Mac machines? Okay, we call them ATMs out here on the West Coast. You call it what you want.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, it sounds like a really interesting business. So when you say distributorship, you're helping other people have roots. Are they sort of a franchise of yours, or are they independently owned and operated, or is that an offshoot of your business?
They independently own and operate their own business, but they contract with us to process their transactions.
Gotcha.
So in our business, they call them affiliates or independent ATM distributor or ATM deployers, IADs, or independent ATM deployers.
Interesting. And do most of those independents have, obviously they have multiple ATMs? What's a normal range that somebody would purchase to start up?
Well, I always tell people don't buy an ATM until you have a place to put it, because there's nothing worse than having a 300-pound boat anchor without a boat. So if you don't have any place to find a place to put it and then buy the machine, because otherwise you're investing a couple $1,000 on something you're going to get to look at, but it's not going to make you any money. So I tried, when we got started in the business, I tried to coach people on how to find locations, how to negotiate great opportunities for you. So then you make a good chunk of the money that's being made at that unit for providing that service to that business.
Okay.
So that's how we got started.
I love it. That sounds like an excellent business. Sounds like an excellent business. Many years ago, one of my old bosses said to me, "Money is where the money's at."
And one of my friends, hopefully this goes over the right way. It's like there's money in them ATMs.
Yes, there are. Cool.
Okay.
So I want to transition over. This is the Healthy Investor Podcast, and I love to talk to successful entrepreneurs and investors. And you're both an entrepreneur and an investor, so that really fits the bill here about any sort of habits or routines that play an integral part in your life.
I try to, on a daily basis, I try to wake up, I have my coffee, I do a little bit of reading or journaling of the Bible, and then work out, and then try to be ready at my desk by 9 a.m. And that way I'm clear, because the working out and the journaling actually allows me to clear my mind for the day, so that I'm open, and then I'm on email and phone responding to a plethora of whatever's coming in, either on the ATM side or the multifamily side. So I like to be prepared every single day for what's coming at me.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I find, and I have similar morning routine. I think one of the things that I've learned, just trial and error, right? And whenever I fall off or fall out of my habit, it's that if I don't do it in the morning, I'm not going to do it, right? If I don't exercise in the morning, I might say, oh, maybe I can get there at lunchtime, or maybe I'll sneak a run in around 4 o'clock at the end of the day. And it often doesn't happen. I mean, sometimes it does, but unless I actually do it first thing in the morning, it doesn't get done. And then I love the idea of journaling in the morning. And the more I do it, the more I just find clarity in what I want my day to look like. We can have control of our own day, or we can let the day control us. And also, I try to set a couple goals for the day. Is there anything specific that you journal about?
I journal about my goals for the day. It was interesting that you brought that up. I like to have like 2 to 3 goals for the week, and 1 or 2 things that I can do to make my day feel like I was more accomplished. So I don't set my goals so high that I'm not going to be able to achieve them, because I think more success leads to more success. So if you can set your goals for, say, happiness or whatever for the day, and you're happy at the end of the day, everybody's a winner. But if you set it too high and you don't get to the happiness, you're going to be sad all night. And then you don't want to come home to your wife and family not in a great mood and very happy. So I always just try to set them, my daily goals, I try to set them a little bit easier achievable. My weekly goals are a little bit higher, but my daily goals, like you were mentioning, I try to keep them, make my 5 phone calls or my 5 contacts for the day. That's, in my head, it sometimes the hardest thing is picking up the phone. The first call is always the hardest. That phone's like a 50-pound weight, but as soon as you pick up the first one, it starts like running downhill. So it's one of those habits you want to do, and your clients, whether they want to talk or not, or your investors want to talk or not, they're just happy you're thinking about them. And if you reach out to 5 of them a day, or even 20 a week, something like that, you're going to be so much further ahead when you come to needing to raise capital or needing a friend just to talk to.
Yeah. No, I love that idea of setting those small goals in the morning. When I first started, I found the Miracle Morning probably, 7 years ago. And, I was asking, I just became so inquisitive of like, what do you journal about? Because I don't know what to write. What do you think about when you meditate? And I remember having a conversation with someone about journaling, and I still stick by this today. And he said to me, every morning I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for, because a grateful mind can't be upset. You start your day off with gratitude. He said, and then every morning I write down 3 things that I'm going to do to make today a great day. And that just resonated with me, and still here 7 years later, that's might not exactly be the format that I use, but that's basically it. I write some things that I'm grateful for. Maybe it's some things I'm grateful for from the previous day or that I'm going to do today. And then a couple, 2 or 3 goals that I want to achieve. And it's funny that you mentioned that we're doing this recording in the evening. A little bit earlier, it was around 4:45, and I remembered a call that I had written down in my journal this morning that I was going to make today. And it was an out of my comfort zone call. It was about a business opportunity, and it was 4:45. And I almost said, and I was like, I have to make this call. And I did. And I'm so glad that I did.
Right.
But if I
But now
didn't
you're
write
happy.
that down this morning, that act of actually writing it down, I see that as a commitment that I made to myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
Excellent.
a goal not written down with a timeline is just a dream.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Cool. So I want to transition over this to the final segment where we talk about the same 3 questions. I ask the same 3 questions of all the investors and entrepreneurs that I bring on the podcast. So for you, Michael, what is your definition of success?
When I had, oh my God, that's great. Now I'm getting a mind block.
That's okay.
I think success is when you feel you've accomplished everything that you can and that you're content with your results.
I like that. I like that. Everything that you can. Isn't that such a interesting metric? To some extent, like we don't know how much we can achieve, right?
Right.
That is a very interesting concept, because you want to achieve as much as you can and then be content with it, because if you're never content, then you're always trying, but we don't know how much we can really achieve.
Right. And what's really interesting is I was just in Ojai a week ago, and Erwin McManus was speaking to us. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he said the only reason we get depressed is because the choices we make aren't to the level we know we can get. So we know that there's better, but we're making choices for less, as opposed to making the choice for better.
Interesting. So don't settle.
Right? Don't settle.
That's excellent. Cool. So question number 2. So for someone who is newer to investing or learning to focus on their goals and their path to success, could you give us a good book recommendation?
There's a couple books I really love. One of them is Think and Grow Rich, and the other one is Flip the Script by Oren Klaff. And I've just gotten I've probably read that one 4 times in the last 6 months, just because it just teaches me to be a better communicator, and that I can actually translate sometimes my ideas to where you think they're your ideas. And when you think what I'm doing is great because we've talked about it enough, and you're convincing me that you should be on board with what I'm doing, I've done my job.
Interesting. Flip the Script. I haven't heard of that book, so I'm going to have to add that to my potential list. Think and Grow Rich has been a game changer for me. I have a dusty old copy of it over on my bookshelf over there that has been used and used and used many times. And then I also have it on Audible. And from time to time, I have a sales job, so I'm often in my car and, for hours on end, and, I'm catching up on my calls, and then I pop in an Audible book, and Think and Grow Rich is one of my go-to. And, it's so interesting. There are 2 interesting things about Think and Grow Rich. One is that I firmly believe that our mind and our mindset are really the only things that can stop our limitations and create limitations for us. So if you can open your mindset and open your mind to what you're going to do and what you want to do, you can achieve so much more, and you could be where you want to be. You can have what you want in your life. The second thing that is so interesting to me, they talk about in Think and Grow Rich, and they say that the power when 2 minds come together there's a third mind created, and it's called the mastermind. And so the concept of the mastermind comes from the book Think and Grow Rich, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, and the term mastermind is sort of we see it every day now, right? In real estate and investing, and it really is true that it is the concept of bringing more minds together to create one additional really big mind where you can create more ideas and grow together.
Absolutely. And you can learn so much more from others that may have gone before you or had that situation. And you learn from them how they actually navigated those waters. And we're in tough times. And there's people that have been through the 2008 turn down and in the teen years of the 2000s. And now we're in 2023 with interest rates doing what they're doing. And it's like anything else. It's just another cycle. And they say winter's coming. I believe winter's here. And the best thing that comes after winter is spring.
Spring.
And that's when everything starts to grow. So if you're not planting seeds today, you're going to have nothing to grow when spring comes. So start planting.
Yeah. Well, part of the biggest reason that I decided to take on this journey of a podcast was so that I could learn from others. And this is a way for me to learn from others and then pass that information on sort of all at the same time. And
absolutely.
You can never stop learning, right?
No, if you stop learning, you're going the wrong direction. That's my opinion.
So before we get to the final question, I want to again thank you for coming on. How can we support you, and how can people reach out to you and communicate with you?
Well, thanks for asking, Bob. My words for 2023 and 2024 are be available, because most syndicators aren't. Unless you're putting money into their deal, it's hard to get their attention. So I want to be available. And by being available, I'm going to just hand you guys all my cell phone. If you want to learn anything more about multifamily investing, or you want to purchase an ATM and maybe start your journey in the ATM space, you can text me and let's jump on a call and see if there's an opportunity there for both of us. My cell phone is 509-270-6701. Again, 509-270-6701, or my direct email is michael@pacificcapitalllc.com, just as it MICHAEL @pacificcapitalllc.com.
Great. And moving on to the final question, if you can think back with me to a young Michael around the ages of 10 to 12 years old, knowing what you've learned so far in your journey, what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give to that young Michael or to any pre-teenage child to help guide them towards success?
Invest even when you don't believe you can. You need to start putting your money to work for you as you earn money. And if I would have been smarter, even at age 10 to 13, I was mowing lawns and I got so busy, I hired my brother. So I was already starting to build company and have underlings to actually earn more money for me. And at that point in time, if I'd have even been thinking about investing, even if I'd have put $20 a month away or something of that nature back then, where would it be today? And another piece of advice is, if you don't think you can, you must. So if you don't think you can do something, you must go try it, because that's what gets us out of our comfort zone and changes our own mindset. You were very clear on our mind is the only thing that controls our limiting beliefs. And so for me, even today at 55, if I don't think I can, that means I must. So I'm going to go do it. So even as a young kid, I would put that into play. And number 3, always be learning from everybody you're around and be a great listener. I mean, there's a reason we have 2 of these and 1 of these, because there's so much knowledge out there for us to gain. And you don't gain it by talking at somebody, you gain it by listening to what they have to share. And that's probably it for me. I'm always trying to learn from everybody I come into contact with.
This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing your story and opening up your cell phone to the audience. I hope that people who found value on this will definitely reach out to you and touch base. If you were listening and you got value out of this, please reach out to Michael. And thank you so much for coming on. Go out there and make it a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining me on the Healthy Investor Podcast. Check out the show notes for more information about connecting with our guest. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please head on over to iTunes and leave a positive rating and review. It would mean the world to me. I'm grateful for your support, and I wish you an abundance of success on your journey to healthy investments and a healthy life.